you have certain fears where it feels like if I go ahead with this thing, or if I do this thing, or if I don't do something, then I will literally die? Like, do you have that fear on a very survival level? Chances are you are experiencing what we call splenic fears in human design, and let me break it down to you. So this right here is the spleen center, energy center in human design, and every gate in this center has specific fears associated with it, which can practically get us in fight and flight mode sometimes, or just get us like really stuck with fear, and it feels like literally about life and death. Okay, so let's break it each one of. Gate number 48 can really instigate this fear of inadequacy, because this is the gate of depth. And so you might feel like no matter how much you read, no matter how much you study, no matter how much you work, how much you gain talent and resources, you always feel like you're not good enough. And this is just a perpetual constant fear. And it makes sense, because back in the day, when you do not have the right resources, you might actually experience what we call persecution sometimes, or you might actually die, like when you don't have enough weapons to fight the tiger off. Now, gate 57 is known as the gate of the intuition, or the intuitive clarity. And so while it's great for those intuitive hits, on the flip side, it can have this constant fear inbuilt of future, because you're always anticipating what may go wrong. And while again this energy was beautiful when you were navigating the forest for survival as a caveman, it doesn't really do much good now when we're living in these really modern construct societies. And so we're always thinking from the survival space, and always think of the worst case scenarios or the attack which might happen in the future. Well, in a sense, in real life, it might not actually be the case. So that's one fear. And then we have gate 44. So gate 44 can have this fear of past repeating itself over and over and over again. You might just can't hold yourself back from moving forward with a new plan, with a new idea, with a new relationship, because you're just so afraid that something that has gone wrong in the past might repeat itself. Or you might like hold yourself responsible for like, oh my god, what if I do this mistake over and over again? When is, in the sense, this energy is about learning from the mistakes. Yes, not holding yourself back out of it. But again, it makes sense to be on the spleen, because it might have costed you life and death when you are in a space of survival, right? What if you repeat the same mistake you did the last time, and this time you're not able to win the war? And then gate 50 is, if you have this gate, then you might have this underlying fear, kind of like running the show sometimes, about the fear of responsibility. You might see that you might like run away from responsibility, or you might tell yourself a story that you will not be able to take responsibility for people, for projects, for yourself even. And so it's important for you to be mindful of where it is not serving you, and in fact just being like an unnecessary false danger, false alarm, for you to hold back yourself and to limit yourself and your potential. Now, gate 32 can instigate this fear of failure. It's this fear that I will fail, and that makes sense because it's connected on the opposite side with this gate of ambition. And so sometimes this fear of failure can drive you to take actions on things that you don't really want to take actions towards, but you're so afraid that you would fail that you would want to just pour into energy into just anything, because you feel like if you don't do this, then I'll fail. So it can be a lot of like pressure, and this fear of failure served back in the days when it comes to your survival, or probably it might serve you when you are in that very alarming situation because you don't want to fail. You have just one shot. But in life, like when it comes to launching a creative idea or starting a new relationship or whatever, you don't have just one chance in life, right? Like life gives you multiple chances, and even if you fail, you can learn and you can like do it again. And then we have gate 28, which instigates provokes this fear of death, and which again, as they say, certain fears serve us, and it is good to have this fear of death for us to not do some crazy stuff like stand in the middle of the road or jump off a cliff, right? But also imagine if this fear of death is kind of like kicking in even when you don't need that fear. That is when again a scenario of false alarms can happen and can just create a lot of anxiety, right? Just like all splenic fears do. So yes, being mindful of that. And lastly, gate 18 can instigate this fear of authority, and this fear was super valid back in the days because we were supposed to be afraid of the authority figures, because if we do not like listen to them or don't like obey the rules of the kingdom, then there would be consequences, right? But we have so much of freedom of expression now. We have so much of like freedom of speech, freedom of like we all are individual beings, and we can do, at least in most of the places in the world right now in the current scenarios, that we can do what we want to do, that we will not face as dire consequences as we would back in the days when we were really struggling to survive. Yes, or even like I would say like even way before the kingdom thing happened, right? So it's mindful to like be aware of this fear when it kicks in, like when you want to say like present in front of a lot of people, or when you want to like send up a proposal, or you want to like speak in front of your, say, elders as well and express your opinions, or just like stand up for yourself, right? That you will not die in most of the cases, that nobody's gonna like kill you, persecute you, punish you in such dire ways, as much as probably a spleen is telling you that it's gonna be like that. So, you know, all that literally that anxiety in your body, it might actually be another false alarm. As we just saw, these were all like splenic fears which have been inbuilt in our system for a reason, because we are really being wired to look out for surviving, and that's just how our ancestors have survived, humanity has survived. But in many cases they sometimes work against us, and so the only way to actually win over the splenic fear is to feel the fear and do it anyway. Do it anyway, like take support from some of the nervous system breathing exercises, or just creating that safety and resilience in your nervous system, and like tell yourself, probably I'm not gonna die if I post my writing or share my art, or if I like speak my truth, right? And feel it, but do it anyway. Like, don't let that stop you.